You may have gotten really excited about getting strong and learning how to squat, but you found that with the 45-pound bar or even the 15-pound bar, you can't squat with that. And so you need a method to make some progress and get stronger so you can get to the point where you can squat with a 15-pound bar. And we've developed a method for that. It's a 4-step process that starts with a pillar or a box on the ground. And we've made this out of bumper plates, but you can use just a regular wooden box with some rubber mats, whatever you can to get this height correct. And that height is going to be at a position where when you're sitting on it, your hip crease is just underneath the top of your kneecap, the top of your patella. So the first step is going to be that you're going to sit down on the bumper plates, on the pillar. And we're going to establish the bottom position. So the feet are about shoulder width. That looks pretty good. The toes are out at a 30 to 40 degree angle. And the knees are consciously pushed out to make sure that the thighs are in line with the feet to prevent twisting on the knee. And then you're going to look about 4 to 6 feet in front of you at one point on the ground, and that's going to help you maintain your balance. And lean forward and drive your hips up out of the bottom. And this leading the hips up movement is really important. Go ahead and sit back down. Lean forward, hips up. He's leading hard with this part, his low back with his butt. He's driving that up. And we're doing that on purpose because the hip musculature is a lot bigger than the knee musculature, and we want to take advantage of that mechanically. In addition to the fact that this will put a good amount of stress, a correct amount of stress on your knees to allow them to get stronger and in a safe and quick way. Go and sit back down, one more. So his knees are out, he leans forward and drives his hips up, good. And you may only have to do this 3 or 4 times, maybe a set of 5, but you want to do this enough until you get this idea of the hip drive and that you can balance with your feet flat. The balance is kind of the biggest focus on this. So you want to make sure your feet are flat, you're able to drive your hips up and you're not falling over. And that's really the point behind having the box. The box allows you to establish the bottom position without getting tired sitting at the bottom of the squat. And it also, in the case of if you lose balance in the middle of doing this, go ahead and do that. Instead of falling over, you just kind of sit down. And then you lean forward and drive your hips back up and you're good to go again. Whereas if you didn't have this, you might fall over, you might break a bone, you might hit your head on something. And so this just protects against that while you're getting used to the squat and learning how to balance and coordinate everything. So step 2 starts from the top. And he's going to do the same thing, you're going to do the same thing, except now you are barely going to touch the bottom with your butt. You're barely going to touch the pillar with your butt. So he looks down, reaches back, he barely touches his butt to the pillar and then drives his butt up, his hips up. And you're going to do that for a set of 5. And if you are not strong enough, this might be enough stress on your first day to cause you to adapt and to get stronger. And so you might only do 3 sets of 5 with this step 2 method on your first day. If that's the case, 2 days later, you're going to come back in and we're going to do step 3, which is to add some weight. You're going to hold the plate to your chest and keep your chest up. Bend over, reach back with your hips and barely touch and drive your hips up. And 2 days later, on that next session, you're going to do that for 3 sets of 5. 2 days later, after that one, a 5-pound plate. 2 days later, 7.5 pounds. 2 days later, 10 pounds. And maybe you can increment by 5 pounds. Maybe you need to increment by 2.5 pounds. But at a certain point, you're gonna get stronger to the point where you're squatting with a 25-pound plate in your hand. And after that, the amount of plates you're holding just becomes unmanageable. And in my experience, if you can hold a 25-pound plate in your hand and do this for 3 sets of 5 or even 5 sets of 3, you can switch over to just a 15-pound bar, and that's step 4. So when you switch over to that 15-pound bar, you're going to do it inside the rack, and you might go back to this pillar. You might still have this pillar here, but you want to get away from the pillar as soon as you can. And that might be on the first session, that might be on the 5th session or the 10th session. But the main reason we have that is just for the balance in case you fall. And once you get to the point where you can balance effectively with feet flat and you're not falling over or stumbling at all, you want to get rid of this pillar. Now, when you add in the bar, you may have difficulty with balance again, and if you've gotten rid of the pillar, you might want to go back to it till you get used to the bar, and then you are able to regain correct balance and not be worried that you're going to fall over. Now, once you have the bar, you need to refer to the Learning the Lifts video that Starting Strength has put out on YouTube for the squat. That's super effective, and that's just the standard squat that we do with the bar. Now, if you are in a position where you can't even do this, where you squat down and you get stuck at the bottom and you're not strong enough to even stand up from there, again, you need an alternate method to get stronger, and we still, of course, have methods for that. The first one that I recommend is that you're going to have this pillar set up in the middle of the squat rack. You're going to have a band stretched out over the safety pins at whatever height you need to do, and then you're going to sit down on the band and barely touch the pillar with your butt, and that band is going to take some of the weight off your body. It's going to give you some assistance in that lower range of motion and allow you to stand back up. The reason that I think this is the most effective is because it's going to allow you to train the full range of motion and allow you to get strong through that entire range of motion, but obviously without getting stuck at the bottom. The second method that Starting Strength has put out in a video also is the leg press method, where you're going to do 3 sets of 10 on a leg press. And this is really, really important, especially for overweight and weak trainees, because in the deadlift, you're mostly just lifting the weight off the ground, but in the squat, you're not just squatting the bar, you're squatting your body weight as well. And so if you are particularly overweight, this can be a problem. The third method that I don't like as much, because it does not train that full range of motion, is going to be to start with a pillar that's actually too high, that's not to the correct depth, but it's to a height that you can squat to and actually be able to do reps of. In that case, instead of adding weight, you are going to take height off of the pillar until you work all the way down to this full range of motion. Again, I don't think that works as well because of the lack of full range of motion all the way from the beginning, but it may be the only option you have. And the real final last resort option is that you don't squat. You may not be strong enough to actually do all this stuff or not have access to the equipment, and so maybe you just deadlift. And if you deadlift, your knees are going to get stronger, your hips are going to get stronger, and if you get your deadlift high enough, you will be able to squat at a certain point. You will be strong enough to be able to put a 15-pound bar on your back and squat down. Again, if you've been getting excited about getting strong and getting squatting, but you're not able to squat the standard bars, try this method out, see if it works for you, make progress and get stronger, and I hope that helps. Thanks for watching.